last week, I think it was a campaign rally in Detroit, and anti-genocide protesters were chanting, "Kamala, Kamala, you can't hide. We won't vote for genocide." And we have a clip of how she responded. Let's go to that.
Donald Trump intends to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations. He intends to cut Social Security and Medicare. He intends to surrender our fight against the climate crisis, and he intends to end the Affordable Care Act. You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that, otherwise I'm speaking.
Right. I mean, just the, that rhetoric of like, that liberals are espousing now, that, Kamala is better for Palestinians than Donald Trump. And if you criticize her, what do you want? Donald Trump to win? He's going to erase Gaza. But what is happening now? Who are the people in power now? Kamala Harris has power now that she could use to stop the genocide now. I mean, it's kind of this, I don't know, it makes you dizzy. And, this brings us to a broader question. Since Joe Biden pulled out of the race and Harris became the presumptive nominee, there's been a softening toward the Democratic Party among some on the so-called self-described progressive left. Some Democratic Party surrogates are talking about how she's supposedly shown more empathy toward Palestinians, as though that is a material that has any material impact. Or they underline how she didn't preside over the Senate when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke a few weeks ago, as though that was an act of defiance or something. She did meet with Netanyahu later on, and her spokespersons have reaffirmed her commitment to arming Israel. Of course, they said that they're not going anywhere near an arms embargo. Ali, how do you and this was what we were going to ask Hatem, but Ali, how do you react when you hear claims that Harris is this, lesser evil when it comes to this genocide?
Oh, you don't want to hear how I react, but
It's rhetorical at this point.
right. But
Yeah.
I mean, look, that video, I mean, it's there are other videos we didn't show, but there are videos taken from the back of the crowd where you can hear clearly what they're chanting, which is against genocide. And
Yeah.
her response is that if you oppose genocide, you support Donald Trump. I mean, it is perverse.
Yeah.
It's just disgusting. And what they're trying to do, the Democratic Party and Democratic leadership, is not treat this as the most urgent moral and humanitarian issue of our time, one in which the United States is absolutely on the wrong side, but just to triangulate it. I mean, so they by that it means like, oh, well, so it's all these fine calculations. So, well, she didn't preside over the Senate when
Right.
Netanyahu spoke, so that's supposed to please the people who support Palestine. But she did meet with Netanyahu privately, so that's supposed to please Israel and its lobby. And then why did she come out, or her spokesperson, her national security spokesperson, come out and reaffirm her support for arming Israel? Is because the news came out after that rally in Detroit, where we just saw the video, which was last week, that there were news reports that she had met with members of this of Uncommitted, the Uncommitted
Right.
movement, which is the movement which encouraged people to leave their ballots blank or not to vote for Joe Biden in the very few Democratic primaries that actually happened before the Democratic Party canceled them all and tried to impose Joe Biden. We all know what happened after that. And Uncommitted came out and said, oh, we met with Kamala Harris. It's not very clear if this was an organized meeting or if they just sort of met behind the scenes of the rally. They said, we met with her and that she agreed to a meeting, or her staff agreed to a meeting, to talk about an arms embargo on Israel. It was after that that Harris's top national security person came out and said, no, no arms embargo. She's absolutely committed. And I don't know if it's a mere coincidence that this was in the same week. Yeah, there it is, the tweet from Phil Gordon. I'll just read it for those who are listening. The vice president has been clear she will always ensure Israel is able to defend itself against Iran and Iran-backed terrorist groups. She does not support an arms embargo on Israel. She will continue to work to protect civilians in Gaza and to uphold international law. The last sentence, of course, is just BS, because she fully supports murdering civilians in Gaza with the weapons that the Biden-Harris administration continues to ship. And they just yesterday, as if, I don't know, but I'm guessing they did this to hammer the point home. Yesterday, they announced another $20 billion weapons package for Israel. Another $20 billion. And I think a few days ago, they announced $3 billion or $3.5 billion. So it's like psychological torture or warfare that they're doing. And then the other thing is, last week or a couple of days ago, I think this was on Monday, her campaign announced an outreach director to the American Jewish community. Who did she pick? She picked someone called Ilan Goldenberg, who is a longtime government apparatchik and Israel lobbyist. He worked in the Department of Defense. He worked in the Obama administration. He's one of her advisors. Israeli born, moved to the US at a younger stage. Israeli born, spent his career supporting Israel, and he's her representative to the Jewish communities. Well, what kind of representative is that to the thousands of young American Jews who are blocking bridges in the Bay Area, or the Brooklyn Bridge, or in the hall, in the Rotunda of Congress and Grand Central State, all these mass protests we've seen organized by young Jewish people? Does he represent anything for them other than the things that are just revolting to them? But her message is to, that appointment reinforces what I believe is the anti-Semitic idea that to be Jewish, to be an American Jew, means to support Israel and its genocide. And then yesterday, and then again back to this triangulation of trying to throw crumbs at everyone, she appointed a Muslim outreach director. So this is someone to do outreach to the Arab American and Muslim community, a woman called Nasrina Barghzi, who is an Afghan American. Her family came to the United States in the 1980s as part of a refugee resettlement program. To me, it looks like it's likely that her family were involved in the US-backed Mujahideen and they were brought to that's the typical pattern. I don't know that for a fact, but just from the public information that is there about her. And what does that mean? That like, so, we're supposed to think, oh, wonderful, there's a brown lady who's Muslim, who's from an Afghan background, nothing to do with Palestine. And that's supposed to make people feel good about Kamala Harris's support for the ongoing genocide in Gaza. So again, it's this identity politics, this tokenism, this virtue signaling, like, oh, well, yeah, so they're murdering babies in Gaza and starving people. But look, we have this Afghan American woman who's in the Kamala campaign. The idea of brown faces in high places or black faces in high places as a substitute for end the genocide. Stop the genocide. That's what we want. We don't want to see, we don't care if there's an Afghan American woman in Kamala's campaign or her administration. We want an end to the genocide. That's what that's what all this boils down to. Just smoke and mirrors and signaling. And sadly, people are buying it.
People are buying it
People
wholesale.
are buying into it.
Absolutely. No, I mean, the level of vitriol that American liberals white liberals particularly have for the student protesters in this country, for activists, like 𝐓𝐡𝐞, for people who are pointing out the hypocrisies of the Democratic Party and the Democratic elite. Um, Pointing out the revulsion at this virtue signaling and these attempts to weaponize identity, and as a cudgel to shut people up and to continue the policies that we've been seeing the last 10 months. It's stunning, and it's also not surprising when we look at how this country works and how we're, following the money and following the power. And yeah, I'm just I'm I'm excited to see what's going to happen at the DNC and if they'll even listen, because that's the point. Um,
I mean, they're feeling the pressure, but they're
yeah,
still sending, that's the bottom line. But, as Abu Bakr told us, and as I think we can never say enough, it's, we have to keep up the pressure.
yeah,
We can't give up. People in Gaza aren't giving up, and we just have to keep up the pressure in every
I
way
agree.
we can. And don't yield. Don't yield
Right.
to them. Don't allow them to silence us. They're telling us. They keep saying, "Oh well, if Kamala loses, Trump will do all these terrible things." Their worst fantasy of Donald Trump is still not anywhere close to this Democratic Party genocide in Gaza.
Yeah.
The Biden-Harris genocide in Gaza is the worst thing possible. It's the worst thing possible. And don't tell me, I'm here in the United States. I don't like Donald Trump. In an ideal world, in a world that was 0.5% ideal, he wouldn't be president. But nothing Donald Trump is going to do to Americans is going to be nearly as bad as what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are doing to Palestinians right now and have been doing. And again, I don't tell people how to vote. I'm just telling you my opinion, my views, which is that in any situation, if these people constantly are rewarded, if they can win
Yeah.
and win and win and win, and never pay a price for their horrific policies against Americans, against people around the world, what hope is there of any change? I mean, if the Democrats lose, we may well be in for tough times, but we're having tough times now anyway. Is there any chance that there would be introspection or some
Right.
kind of change or some kind of collapse of the party and its disappearance and replaced with something better? Well, the only possibility of that is if they are punished for what they're doing. If they just win and win and win, we get to the situation now where it's like there's no bottom. Literally, genocide is not a deal breaker for them. Genocide is fine. It's just another niche issue. I get told this, that, oh, you're a single issue voter. Yes, or a single issue, whatever it is. Uh, not everyone is a voter. Not everyone who has the right to vote wants to vote. Abstention is certainly a political statement. But yeah, of course, for me, genocide is the only issue.
Shouldn't it be
Genocide,
everyone's? Yeah.
absolutely, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this
And
is,
that, yeah.
and people say, "Oh, well, there are things happening all over the world," but this is an American genocide.
Yeah.
This is the responsibility of the United States. As ugly, as brutal, as cruel, as fanatic as Israel is, they could not do this for 3 days without the backing of the United States.